day 3 of the monsoon session of Parliament, and as according to script, it has been a washout as well. What is at stake here? What is it going to take for the Parliament to function? And what is the fate of very crucial legislation? We've got three very special guests joining us right here on ET Now on the Monsoon Storm this evening. We've got Mr. GVL Narasimha Rao of the ruling party, the BJP. We've got Congress's Dr. Ajay Kumar, and of course we have the CPM leader, Dr. Mr. D. Raja with us. Thanks very much, each one of you, for being with us. I'm going to really bring with talking to you about the big concern that Indian industry, markets, a lot of stakeholders in Indian economy had. They were hoping that the session won't be a washout, but day 3 with no proceedings looks like we're headed to a washout. GVL Narasimha Rao, is that a concern your party is stating at this moment? Could we be staring at a complete washout of the monsoon session?
I think it's certainly a concern for the government that the Parliament is not functioning, has not been able to function for the first 3 days. The government on its side has tried every attempt, has made every attempt to ensure that Parliament functions smoothly. The government, on the basis of a notice given by the main opposition party, the Congress party, government agreed to suspend all business and discuss the issues that the opposition considers to be important. But unfortunately, it's the opposition that is not prepared to deliberate and discuss and debate, which is what I think we should be doing in Parliament. Unfortunately, they don't seem to have any facts to really substantiate their accusations outside Parliament. What else would explain the unwillingness of the opposition to really debate and make certain preconditions for having even a debate in Parliament? And even importantly, I think they seem to be, particularly the Congress party seems to be confused as to what it can possibly do, what it can achieve, and it's also feeling cornered because a large number of political parties are not playing ball with the Congress party, and they find the entire strategy of the Congress party seems one of confusion and one of actually being cornered.
That's a valid argument that you're making, and I will get Dr. Ajay Kumar to react to that. So the BJP says that you're feeling cornered. The BJP also says you have a situation of a changing goalpost here. You wanted a discussion, they were ready for one, then you wanted a resignation, then you wanted a probe. What is it that the Congress party wants, and why don't you let that debate happen? I mean, all of us would want to know what is it that Sushma Swaraj wants to tell the world on what she did. Why don't you let her speak? And of course, the other point that Dr. Ajay Kumar is making about being cornered, in some corridors of power within the Parliament, that's also something that's being talked about. Could the Congress be isolated when it tries to disrupt proceedings?
You know, Supriya, I think Mr. Rao is showing courage and trying to be brave on this. The opposition is very united, and they are trying to spread this rumor, and they are falling flat on their face, because the fact is that because of their obstinacy, the Parliament is not running. And the question is the opposition, whether it is the left, whether it is the BSP, whether it is even the Samajwadi Party, and I will clarify, Mr. Mulayam Singh Yadav only made mention of Sushma Swaraj. They continue to feel aggrieved on Vasundhara Raje Scindia and the Vyapam Mahagotala. So that is one thing. The other issue is, look at who is preaching. Arun Jaitley himself, the venerable leader, I mean the senior leader of the Bharatiya Janata Party, told in the last Lok Sabha that having a debate is like putting a lid over, you know, acts of omission and commission which cannot be forgiven. They lost 70% of the time of the previous Lok Sabha, and now suddenly they seem to have found out love for the Parliament. The same party which talks about integrity, Prime Minister says, na khayenge na khane denge. He should change it to say, agar aap Bharatiya Janata Party या उससे संबंधित संगठन से तो आप खूब खा सकते हैं. लगातार there's so many ghotalas of, I mean, allegations of huge impact for this country, and we have been consistent. I don't think we are cornered at all. We are very consistent. We want Mrs. Sushma Swaraj to resign, Mrs. Raje to resign, and Shivraj Singh Chauhan to resign, and the Prime Minister to finally speak. When he speaks also today, he spoke on something else. So my request is the same Prime Minister who speaks from solar energy to the National Day of Venezuela doesn't speak on issues which is so important. And the crucial bills, the GST would have been for this country 5 years back. Who stopped the GST? The people who actually created havoc with the economy is the Bharatiya Janata Party, who prevented the GST bill for 4 years, 5 years. So my question to them is, please, this aggrieved sense of, false sense of hurt is pretty ridiculous. I mean, very difficult to digest for all of us.
Ajay, it's important that you mentioned the point about Narendra Modi talking about the Venezuela Day and solar energy. He also did praise your party MP Shashi Tharoor's speech in Oxford. And I'm going to touch upon that in just a bit. But because we've got the two principal parties talking and making allegations at each other, I've got to get I want to come back to you. I've got to get a voice who's been a career parliamentarian for very long now, Mr. D. Raja. Is a lot of opposition in the Rajya Sabha, at least a lot of political posturing. I mean, are you here really saying that the opposition in its serious mind believes that Sushma Swaraj is going to resign and then there will be a debate? Is the Congress party trying to rally the entire opposition around, and is it becoming increasingly difficult, like the BJP is pointing out, and a little discomforting at one level to disrupt proceedings? I urge you to be honest, I urge you to be candid. Mr. Raja.
Definitely, always I used to be very honest, I used to be very candid, I used to be very straightforward. So you may take my word for that. The point here is, it is not that Congress party trying to unite all opposition parties. In fact, I am looking at it from other way. It is the convergence of positions you are seeing in Rajya Sabha. Independent of what Congress has been speaking, left parties also have made their position very clear, and the tainted ministers or the accused ministers must step down, and there must be a fair trial outside the parliament, there must be fair inquiry outside the parliament. In the parliament, there should be a structured, meaningful debate. And independent of what we have been saying, Congress is also saying, other parties is also saying. So there is convergence of positions which bring all parties on one side. And because opposition is not a bloc, united bloc as such, opposition parties come together on this issue. And let us understand, it is not the question of BJP-led NDA government or Congress-led UPA government or some other United Front government. The question is, India is a democracy and we have parliamentary democratic system. When Dr. Ambedkar proposed parliamentary democratic system, Dr. Ambedkar emphasized the need for accountability. Executive, the government should be held accountable to what the ministers do, what the government does. That is what we are demanding, and the government of the day should respect the conventions, the norms of Indian democracy. And here what I am seeing, the BJP is not accommodative to the issues raised by the parties in opposition, the concerns expressed by the parties in opposition. Government cannot be adamant like that, and no point in blaming opposition parties. And I am not in agreement when people use the word disturbing or disrupting the proceedings. The parties strongly try to raise some issues. Let us understand, for almost for 1 month, media has been debating, whether national media or regional media, they have been debating these issues, and day in and day out they have been discussing. They have brought all evidences, they have brought all facts to the public domain, and they are questioning the morality of the tainted ministers. They are questioning the violation of probity in public life. Now in the parliament, the parties have taken up the issue. That's what one should try to understand. So what is now, the government should indicate there must be some action, visible action against those who violated the probity in public life, and there can be debate. What are the systemic problems which we have today in our democracy? We can discuss. And what are the specific concrete issues which we will have to sort out? We can discuss. Parliament is the supreme body in our democracy. Parliament can do this.
Fair point indeed. Just hold your thoughts there because I want to take this discussion forward and talk specifically about what happened in the houses today. Rahul Gandhi made a very frontal attack. He took on the Prime Minister. He said the Prime Minister has to sack Sushma Swaraj. He's not the Prime Minister of the BJP. He's the Prime Minister of India. Then, of course, came that very scathing counter-attack from the BJP, the tax evasion case of the Himachal Pradesh Chief Minister, another counter-attack from the Congress where Rahul Gandhi spoke in Tiruchi. Is this how politics is going to proceed in this country? An attack, a counter-attack, a attack to that counter-attack? I mean, you know, things are getting lost in transaction. Does the political class understand that at one level, yes, you're trading charges and it is your job to trade charges, but who is going to think about the legislation that has to happen? Who's going to think about the decisions that need to be taken? Because none of that has happened in the first 3 days and we do not see the possibility of this happening. Mr. Narasimha Rao, because you're a part of the ruling alliance, I want to throw that question to you first.
I think we have been, from day one, the government has been urging the opposition to come forward and discuss and has shown its urgency and willingness to debate on any topic. The Congress during the UPA tenure, the Congress party did not allow debate and discussion when they were in power, and now that we are in power, we want them to come and discuss. Even now they want to avoid debate. They want to simply throw mud and run away. In fact, the leader of the government in Rajya Sabha, Mr. Jaitley, has asked him what laws has Mrs. Sushma Swaraj broken, and if she had indeed broken any laws of the country, and if there are any charges that can actually be applied against her, come and debate. Why didn't you say this? Why are you not getting into specifics? You cannot simply throw mud and expect something to stick. And also you cannot simply create a commotion, pandemonium, and then expect government to surrender. A blackmail cannot function, cannot work in parliamentary democracy. You have to substantiate your allegations. You have to show that she is erred and she has erred as far as any laws of the land are concerned. And then you can make your demands. But running away from a debate shows that you don't have anything to really substantiate. You are simply throwing allegations which do not really account to any kind of culpability whatsoever as far as the jurisprudence is concerned. So the Congress is clearly very weak in terms of its case, and therefore it's trying to throw allegations in different directions, trying to disrupt proceedings and hoping that this will possibly give them some kind of a political mileage. But you cannot really reflect on what the BJP did when we were in the opposition. When we disrupted parliament, it was based on a very solid case. There were FIRs registered against in most of the cases where ministers were also accused, and there was CAG report that had estimated the loss in CAG scam to be nearly 2 lakh crores. And there was a lot of material that was all available. There was a lot of allegations that were already laid at your doorstep,
right.
And there was a wrongdoing that was established by institutions like the CAG. And in this case, except throwing mud, what have you been able to establish? There is absolutely no wrongdoing whatsoever. And if there is any, please come and pin the government down on
because
this.
I know Mr. Raja wants to come in with a rebuttal there. Mr. Raja, I'll throw it open to you. What is the point that you need to make? You know, disruption cannot be qualified. A disruption of proceedings is a disruption whether it's done on an FIR or it's done on issues of impropriety. Sushma Swaraj has some questions to answer. We agree she needs to answer them in Parliament, and Parliament should function for that. Mr. Raja, let's get you in right now.
I do not agree when you say disruption all the time. Even I can quote what Mr. Arun Jaitley said about disruption. I am not getting into that debate. Now I am responding to what Mr. Arun Jaitley said or claimed according to BJP. And Srimati Sushma Swaraj is our External Affairs Minister. She is one of the experienced ministers in the government and one of the most respected ministers in the government. But she herself has admitted she did help Lalit Modi. Lalit Modi is a fugitive. is an economic offender. The Enforcement Directorate has been pursuing number of cases against him. Now he is evading Indian law and he is somewhere else. How come the External Affairs Minister could help such a fugitive economic offender? Is it not violation?
Right.
This is what we are questioning. Is it not violation? Who can one of the moral responsibility?
I get your point there. This is not violation. This is what you're questioning.
It is not violation. I am simply asking.
I get your point there, Dr. Ajay Kumar. I want you to comment on this discussion.
BJP
when you were in the ruling benches, you spoke about the merits of the GST, you spoke about the land acquisition bill, you spoke about all those economic legislations. What happened then? I mean, you've completely changed your position. I understand you're not very happy with the GST legislation. I know you think it's flawed at many levels, it's half-baked, you've given a dissent note. But the fact is we've got to make a beginning somewhere. A crucial legislation like that has been held up for decades now. Wouldn't you want to make a beginning? Wouldn't you want to make a contribution as a constructive opposition to at least let the GST out of the way?
Supriya, I'll answer it in two parts. Firstly, with the Bharatiya Janata Party, when you say that, they will say that the Vyapam bodies are also non-existent. They will say that there is no evidence. Vasundhara Raje Scindia's son's company, Lalit Modi's money investment, black being made white, still no evidence. You will show them a mountain of evidence and they will tell you, so what? I mean, I can't understand the government, because Section 439, when the foreign minister took her oath as a minister of the state for the Union of India, she took that she will protect the interests of the country, and she supported a fugitive over a huge economic scandal. Prevention of Corruption Act, how many sections do we have to keep telling them? They keep forgetting it. So one is that they have a very bad case of amnesia, because you repeat the sections, then they again forget. Then their corruption, I mean, bodies are not in evidence. 75 lakh people, students have been cheated, 1,42,000 fraudulent jobs probably in Madhya Pradesh. Then the PDS scam which is coming in, which the ACB of their own, of Chhattisgarh. So the
I want you to go into all of that. I understand those are issues. I want you to answer the question of the GST specifically.
So no, I want to just say that the Bharatiya Janata, no, Supriya, the Bharatiya Janata Party is so thick-skinned. You show them a mountain of evidence, they'll say, so what? Now coming to the legislations, the question is obviously the basic issues, like what Mr. Raja correctly said. If the basic political practices, when the ministers are under question, look at Shashi Tharoor's case, Pawan Bansal's case, Ashwini Kumar's case. They had no FIR against them, and at that time they stepped down. And now, if you're a Bharatiya Janata Party, or if you're from that group of affiliated organizations, then everything is forgiven. You can do any amount of corruption. So my question is, why have double standards? The question is, the Chief Minister of Madhya Pradesh is under a huge cloud of suspicion. Vasundhara Raje Scindia ji's case is much more, even the Rajasthan and Madhya Pradesh is very clear. And Sushma Swaraj ji accepted that she did wrong. And by the way, she accepted only after the Guardian newspaper, the story became public. This is a one-year-old story. So my question is, the bills, first of all, for the parliament to run is the job of the government. The government doesn't want to let the parliament run. Look at the way they are behaving right now.
The onus also lies on the opposition, and you cannot shy away from that.
We cannot, but look at the joke. I mean, the guys who made a practice and an art of obstructing the parliament caused thousands of growth percentage points, I mean, for huge percentage points for this country during the past 10 years.
All right, I get your point. You're the opposition. You're not going to let the parliament function. You're not going to let the GST pass because you believe Sushma Swaraj should resign, and only then will the parliamentary proceedings happen. I'm going to come to...
We want the parliament to function. We want the parliament to function, but we don't want them to function the way the whole country is laughing. We want the parliament to function. Get these resignations, it will function.
The whole country is also very worried about how the parliament is functioning, and the onus lies both on the government and yourself. Mr. Raja, I'll come to you. I know you've given a dissent note as well. I'm going to come to you in just a while, Mr. Narasimha Rao. Mr. Raja, I'm going to come to you very quickly. You've given a dissent note on the GST. In principle, I know both you and the Congress support that bill. You have reservations on certain sections and certain amendments that haven't still been made. When the voting happens, will the left vote against or for the GST, or will you abstain? What is your position right now on that very crucial legislation?
We will move amendments. We will see how government is going to respond to our amendments. You see, GST bill, yes, it is important and Parliament should consider it, and it is a constitution amendment bill and it is very important. Parliament House should be in order and there should be orderly constructive debate on such a legislation, and it is for the government how to run the house. And if you ask me, GST bill, yes, it should be placed before Parliament. I was part of the select committee. I have given dissent note, and that select committee report has been placed in the Rajya Sabha, and there should be debate on the select committee report and the legislation. But there are other issues, important issues, which cannot be glossed over, and this corruption is such an issue. And how can you expect opposition parties to keep quiet and gloss over these issues, allow GST, allow other legislation, right. Juvenile justice bill they have listed. I am not in agreement with that bill, and in fact I have been saying it should be referred to select committee. They have listed the child labor prohibition bill. There are many controversial issues involved, and we have raised all these questions, but government will have to prioritize its business, and government will have to reach out to the opposition.
I get your point.
And opposition parties want Parliament
I get your point. The government needs to reach out to the opposition.
No,
Mr.
do you know
Narasimha Rao, I have a very pointed question coming your way. We've discussed GST threadbare, but I want to discuss the land acquisition bill with you. You know, a lot of people in the opposition, a lot of your allies, a lot of us are very confused. What is your position on the land acquisition bill? Are you going to overhaul that bill if the select panel were to recommend it? Are you going to recommend it to the states, or will you let the states decide? Have you got cold feet yourself? Is there a review rethink because the election's coming up next? You do not want this perception of being anti-farmer, anti-poor. I mean, you know, at large, people are very confused on the government's own position on the land acquisition bill right now. Because India Inc. is losing sleep over that legislation, it is my duty to ask you that question. What is your position on India's land laws?
Supriya, just let me make a statement about the GST also. The Prime Minister, the Honorable Prime Minister, reminded the opposition before the Parliament session began that they made certain promises, and they are certainly not keeping those promises, as you see, as the House had not functioned for the last 3 days. So certainly GST was referred to the Select Committee on the recommendations, on I would say even on the insistence of the Congress Party. And even the land bill was referred to the Joint Parliamentary Committee to get a sense of different groups in Parliament, and that report is still awaited. And after the Niti Aayog meeting, I think you got a sense of what the government is thinking. The Finance Minister stated very clearly, categorically, that we are committed to seeing this bill through. We think this bill, on the provisions of this bill, and the 5 sectors under which exemptions are sought to be made are certainly in national interest. They are also important for economic development of the country. But we would try and build a consensus on this, and so far a consensus had been elusive. And let's wait for the report to be submitted, and let's see how it goes. The government is committed, but certainly we don't have the numbers in Rajya Sabha to simply get it passed the way this was presented to the Parliament, to Rajya Sabha. So certainly the recommendations of the
I'm not entirely convinced what your position on the land acquisition bill is. Just like the rest of the opposition and just like the rest of your allies, I'm not entirely convinced in your position. We'll have that land acquisition debate, I promise, in some days from now. But I have a very scathing question to ask of Dr. Ajay Kumar. What is happening with Shashi Tharoor in your party? Is it true that sections within your party are not comfortable with this disruption? He had raised his opinion. It got leaked. Sonia Gandhi reprimanded him. And today we find him sitting and listening to the Prime Minister's speech and actually getting compliments for his own speech that was made in Oxford. So what is with Dr. Shashi Tharoor? Is he headed out? Does he stay in? What is his position within the party right now?
I think, you know, there's too much or so much of smoke and noise over the Mr. Tharoor's incident. Obviously, the party, when it stands, irrespective of your whatever views you might have, the party's view is a consensus view, and everybody and every party finally, each member, there may be an agreement or disagreement. It's very similar to, I think, it's at least Shashi's, in this case, Shashi's is within the party, not like Mr. Shanta Kumar, whose letter and comments are, a veteran leader like Mr. Shanta Kumar, ex-Chief Minister of Himachal, such a respected man. And now he's been what you call cited individually by Mr. Amit Shah. I don't think, I feel definitely that in Mr. Tharoor's case, based on what you are all saying, the Congress president has mentioned that the parties, all the members of the party, your views have to be echoed inside a group. And when we take a party stand, then everybody stands to it, whatever be our respective positions. That happens in every political party. And Shashi is very much a part of this party, and we all have to be reminded. Different people get reminded different times. I would not give too much of importance to that. And I would also ask the Bharatiya Janata Party that what Mr. Shanta Kumar has written in his wonderful, in his very, what you call, incisive letter is very important for both the government and the opposition.
It's interesting how Shanta Kumar's letter becomes incisive when it has to, and Shashi Tharoor's speech becomes very, very good and very praiseworthy in Oxford when it has to. I mean, that's the nature of Indian politics. But gentlemen, I've completely run out of time here on this edition of the Monsoon Storm. It really has been a pleasure being with all three of you. Thanks very, very much for joining in. To our viewers, we will just leave with one single note. Politics is proceeding over economics. But that's exactly what we've been telling you on ET Now, haven't we? Thanks very much for being with us.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNow Live. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.